Hey there, everybody. Glad to see you today. And we do have Eric Fortenbery with us, the founder and CEO of JobTread, which is a new software that's making some waves out there in the market. So I'm excited to have him on board with us today. Another one of our Better Numbers, Better Business series. And so if you guys would do me a favor and in the questions pane, would you type something in that A, says that you can hear us, and B, kind of lets us know where you're checking in from? That would be really nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my screen, and there, I think the right screen is showing up. Does that look right to everybody? Okay, and I'm hearing, let's see, it looks like Bend, Oregon, Texas. I can hear us all the way from Chelsea, Michigan, which is about 10 miles up the road from us, so good. And great, Salt Lake City. Okay, and while you guys are checking in there, I'll take a look back at that in a minute or two. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and start talking about why are we teaming up today. So we'll tell you a little bit more about both of us in a moment, but the big thing is how do owners best manage and track the multiple moving parts in a construction business? And we're going to be talking about that today. Eric and I are both focused on the entire construction community in their need for increased and more reliable tech and systems and profitability. We know you guys are working really hard out there. And the other thing is it feels like some of these software options are changing moment by moment. And so what's the latest, what's the best, and what do other people use and like? That's really important. And of course, we are inundated with a whole boatload of different options and questions that go along with them. You know what? I'm not immune to that in the accounting community. We're hit with all sorts of different new things, and some of them are fantastic, and other ones, we kind of want to check with other people and see what they're saying about them as well. So it's always a question on a day-to-day basis. Do we stick with our old tried and true systems and maybe stay stuck in a rut or in the mud? Do we dump all of that stuff and just get the latest gimmick? Probably not a good idea. Or do we find a way to keep our best practices and add in the new and useful? So ultimately, can we put together a reasonable approach and still maintain our sanity? So I've done a lot of talking so far, but I'd like Eric to maybe tell you a little bit about himself. And I'm going to kind of just lay out some of these pieces that we have here. So welcome, Eric. So glad to have you here with us today. And maybe you can give us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, appreciate it, Diane. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate everyone taking a little bit of time to come join this webinar. Yeah, so my background, I basically grew up in Dallas, Texas. Did my undergrad at the University of Texas at Austin. I had my first software startup that I built and sold in 2015. And after that, I ended up going and taking over a buddy of mine, his construction business here in Dallas. Essentially walked in and he asked me to come help him figure out how to scale the business and how could I kind of make them more efficient. And I immediately, upon walking in, when I saw all the papers walking in the doors and the binders and the folders, like I could tell that it was very disorganized. There were a lot of kind of places where they were doing a bunch of manual entry or duplicate entry. And I said, man, you guys, it looks like you just need some software or something to help you get organized and streamline the business. And so I went out and I looked at everything out there. I tried everything, did a deep dive into all the software that I could get my hands on. And at the end of the day, though, I struggled to make a recommendation for him because I felt like a lot of the software out there was either super antiquated, looked like it was going to require a lot of effort, or just a dedicated full-time person to set it up and customize it, or it was super expensive. And so these guys were like, well, look, you're a software guy. Can't you just build us something? And I was like, well, hold on. I don't want to create another solution that you're going to have to, maintain and everything. And they kept pushing me. And so finally, I just said, look, all right, my conditions are take over as CEO. I'll give you 1 year, and everything I build is my intellectual property. So if this has some potential for my next company, then I'd have that option to do it. And so they agreed. And so we really dove in, took over the business and just started building out solutions. And we started at the beginning from the budgeting and the estimating, built out kind of a whole budget builder tool. What I realized is that a lot of times some of the salespeople were using markup to calculate the price and others were using margin. Well, we were targeting a 30% profit margin, but guys who were using a 30% markup, they were never going to hit a 30% profit margin. And so ended up trying to essentially automatically calculate price based on the budget and based on the costs that they were plugging in. After we kind of got all the estimating and proposals ironed out, that's when we transitioned over to focusing on the job costing and being able to create, purchase orders and work orders, track all of that against our budget, and then ultimately, manage all the vendor billing. And so it became very apparent that a lot of the time, we were running our jobs and we may have sold the job as a fixed price job, but then we were actually contracting out to subcontractors and we were paying them time and material. And so, it was very clear after I analyzed a lot of the jobs and the data to see that we had a fixed price but a variable cost. And so, again, of course, we struggled to hit our target profit margins because one, just having those two different, ways to manage the job from the way that we sold it, but then also we weren't tracking our costs in real time. We weren't looking at our active job cost and what we'd committed out and then what actuals were coming in. I found a lot of scenarios where we were getting double billed, or we were basically had materials on the wrong job, or we were just kept having to send people back out and we weren't getting the work done properly, and not having a system in place was really kind of one of the biggest challenges that we had. And so really building that piece out was tremendously helpful, and really it helped us, I would say was probably the biggest driver in helping us be able to increase our gross profits and hit our target profit margins. And then on the last side of it, building out the whole AR and making sure that we're sending out our invoices and we're following up on our invoices and that we're getting paid for that hard-earned work that we're doing. I mean, if you don't collect on the invoice, if you don't collect your income there, then it's all for naught. And so that became kind of the last sort of pillar there. Was very important that we connect all these dots from start to finish to make sure that we are hitting those target profit margins. And so at the end of that year, I mean, basically, I helped grow that business from 5 to 8 million in sales, and we increased the gross profit by 43% just from implementing what is now JobTread. At the end of that year, I basically thanked them, said, hey, I think you guys are off to back on track, off to a good start. And that was in 2018. 2019, I started JobTread. I recruited some of my developers from my last software company, where they came in and essentially rebuilt everything I did it a much better job, set it up to be scalable, and allowed us to essentially start selling it to other construction companies in 2021. And so we sold it to about 200 companies at the end of 2021. Last year we got to around 1,000. This year we're over 1,200 already. So it's very quickly grown on us, and I think it's really just been a really neat collaborative effort where we're able to partner with over 1,000 construction companies to take kind of their feedback and to work with them to create this platform that we're continuing to build out and improve upon. Obviously, we've been able to learn from a lot of those existing solutions, the things that they did well, the things that they don't do well, and can essentially continue building out JobTread. And I tell people all the time that we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just leveraging modern technology to build an easier to use, easier to learn platform that's extremely fast, and it gives us that opportunity to just kind of create a great solution that that many contractors can get behind. And it's been a really exciting journey so far.
Nifty. I love that concept of connecting the dots, because there are all those moving parts that we talked about. And as we zero in towards the end of our presentation today, I'm going to give you some room to just find out just a bit more about some specifics. But the other thing that you told me that I thought was pretty interesting, and we can delve into that a little bit more as we move forward, is that you developed this in real life, in a real life scenario, and then you brought the software folks in to maybe, like you said, clean up the code and do some things a little differently than you did first time out of the gate. But you developed this in a real life environment to know exactly what was going on, what the needs were, and coming into really kind of a typical company with a lot of paper, a lot of maybe people doing things in spreadsheets, notebooks, and so on. I've seen exactly the same thing that you're talking about. So that's kind of cool. I don't know if we've got any new people in here, maybe from your side of the world, but just a little bit about my background is that I am a consultant, a trainer, a speaker, author, and a product developer, because we've done a variety of support products, things that many of the accounting packages don't do by themselves, but that you can do in conjunction with the existing packages like QuickBooks Desktop. I've spent more than 25 years working with business owners and their accounting staff to help them develop job cost and management accounting systems. I did receive kind of a Lifetime Achievement Award, the 2022 Pro Advisor of the Year, after having also been named into the top 100 for 9 years. Now, once I've done that, I can't win those anymore. That's it. I don't have to be out there applying or stumping for votes anymore. So I was also named several years ago the top niche practice pro advisor for construction, and I've picked up a number of certifications along the way, and I have a pretty extensive accounting background, including being a CPA. I don't do a lot of CPA types of things right now. I work primarily on the management accounting side, but I do have that background as well. So that's enough about me. So we're going to just start on our area of what kinds of ways can we use job costing to help increase profits. We promised just 7. We might slide in a couple more along the way, but Eric sent me this cartoon. I thought it was great, so I wanted to feature it here. And I'm going to guess you guys can say in the questions, let us know, yes or no, have you ever received any of these kinds of change order requests? And I'm seeing also I see other people in here from Dayton, Ohio, Salt Lake City, North Carolina. So again, we just want to welcome you today and share some of our best ideas with you today. So Eric, how about before the job starts? Do you have any ideas about how job costing can help people that way?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And again, my approach and really the JobTread approach is like the thing that you can always figure out is like, what is this job going to cost you, going into it? You need to make sure that you've built out a very detailed scope of work and a budget so that you can take those costs and again, add your profit margin to it to come up with the price. But I think at the very beginning, just making sure that you flushed out a very detailed and accurate budget for the job is ultimately going to be the foundation for your job costing and for going in there. And so, I'd say that's probably a huge kind of plus is really understanding what's going to go into the job so that you can accurately price it.
Yeah, looking back at prior jobs and seeing where you've been over, where you've been under, so that you can learn from that, and also providing, I mean, it's kind of circular, okay? So what you learn from prior jobs, you get to apply to current jobs, and you get to create that kind of a database to work from. And as you said, making sure, what you said on the front end was markup and margin are not the same things. And having people proof and look at things, getting those estimates right, and having other people. I put together something called a tale of 4 companies, and we talk about different layers of non-job costing all the way up to the more sophisticated side of job costing. But having somebody look through that information and double check it and say, what's the reality check on this? And you can look at your prior numbers to do that, but then also internally checking things through. So by getting the estimates visible in the system, not just a square footage estimate, but really getting those details and not missing any of the pieces and parts. If you miss estimating for the kitchen hardware, all those things, guess who gets to eat that? in a fixed price job?
You do.
Yeah, the
I
company
think
owner.
one really good story here. One of the things that I uncovered after I took over the company and we started doing the job costing. So I found that, for a particular customer, now this is a commercial job, but, a particular customer in a city like in Houston, where all of the jobs that we did that were the same type, so they're all fencing jobs, I found that we were actually losing money. We lost anywhere from 10 to 12% on every single job. And that went on for months, like 6 months. And what I realized is that we never went and did the job costing. We never took all of our actuals, logged it directly against that job to understand how were we performing on that job. And so we kept making the same mistake over and over and over again. And ultimately what it came down to was we never updated our cost of the material, and we were just using outdated cost, for our materials, and therefore had no chance in hitting our target profit margin, because we were just way underpricing the job and our costs were coming over every time. So we literally were paying this customer to install fences on their properties, and you just can't run a business that way. You have to analyze every job and take the time to understand how did you perform. And if sure, mistakes will happen, but don't keep making the same mistake twice.
Absolutely. So, if you do a job and you don't make let's say you just break even, okay? You do a job and you break even. What's the point in that? I mean, you might as well have gone fishing. You might as well have stayed home with your feet on the couch or gone golfing or something. But actually, I mean, you could have used the time in a much better way, okay? Because you just put forth a whole lot of time and energy and effort to break even. And then the situation where you're losing money, you're exactly right. It's like paying your client to say, hey, can I come and do a really good job for you and pay you for the fun of doing it? That's called a hobby. So, okay, good. So we've kind of touched on before the job, being prepared before that job. And of course, we're probably not going to take the time to talk about purchase orders right at this moment, but that's another piece of the process, is getting your cost nailed down from an estimating side. But that can also be a part of a job costing system, is to have those purchase orders going out to vendors and getting those costs nailed down so that you don't have what I call the B-bouts. Have you heard of a B-bout, Eric?
No.
B-bouts are when you ask the landscaper to come in and give you an estimate, and he goes, well, it'll be about $5,000.
No.
And then the bill comes in for $5,500.
No.
Well, you don't have a leg to stand on to argue it at that point, but you just lost. I mean, that's another 10% of cost that you get to eat. So, okay, so let's talk about during the job.
I would say directly to that. I mean, so one of the things that we did realize, and it kind of goes from before to during. So we started, instead of running these jobs, time and material, we did start, requesting all of our subs to submit our bid requests. They basically would, give us a fixed price, and so that would allow us to then say, look, however long it takes you, that's fine, but give me the cost, and then that allowed us to go and sell that at a fixed price job, and then whenever we won the job, we in JobTread, you just go right back to that bid request, one click, create it, into a work order, and essentially it's taking that same cost. So we've now locked in our cost for that job, and so at that point, it helps us to have already solidified what the cost will be, and then ultimately when we get billed for it, you can compare that bill to the purchase order, to the work order, to ensure that that was exactly what you were expecting. I think one of the big advantages of doing the purchase orders and the work orders is that you're committing those costs out of your budget, so that you're able to see in real time when you're overrunning your budgeted cost. If you're not tracking that in real time, then again, if you're just waiting to receive the bills from your subs and until you've reconciled all your credit card purchases and everything, then you're going to really struggle to be able to in real time course correct to make changes. So if you're overrunning that budget, what can you do? I mean, if it's in the moment, I mean, again, do you have a change order opportunity? Is there a way that there were some additional costs incurred that potentially could be covered under some sort of a change order clause, or we're out of scope, or whatever the situation may be, the sooner you can address that with the customer, the more likely you are to get that approved. But again, you could also find that maybe there's materials on this job, or you're having to send a crew back out over and over when they shouldn't be. I think using purchase orders and work orders will help you in advance and as soon as possible sort of see when you're overrunning that budget before it's too late. A lot of times at the company I ran, like, we might not know how we performed on a job because it would take 30, 45 days to receive all the bills and to get everything reconciled in our books. And so that's just way too late. You've already closed out, you've already done all the final invoicing at that point. And so your chances of going back with a change order or trying to recoup some of that cost, it just is just basically gone because you've already sent that final invoice. So I think doing that type stuff in real time will really help you to manage any of those cost overruns, and it just gives you the most opportunity to try to course correct before it's too late.
So Eric, I have my own opinion on this, but I'm going to ask you what you think with your deep experience here. How frequently should people be looking at, company owners, project managers, be looking at their job cost reports?
I mean, I think that it's important that, if you can have a system in place, like, I mean, with JobTread, like, you can view all of your active jobs that are over budget right now. At any given moment, you should be able to see a list and to know where you're at. And that's why we have the notion of we're projecting your cost, which is taking the maximum of your budget, your commitments, and your actuals. And then that also allows us to project your profit. And so, I think from a business owner's perspective, it's important that you focus on the jobs that are either about to go off the rails or have already gone off the rails. Jobs that are on track, they're on budget, they're on schedule, everything is good. You got a project manager, you got just everything is in order, everything's good. You don't need to spend your time focusing on those jobs. It's the ones that you have potential for a loss or to just not even hit your target profit margin. That's where I think as a business owner, it's very important that you spend your time focusing on those jobs, because they may need the additional supervision. They may need engagement with the customer. You may need to get different crews involved, like whatever it may be. I think that's where the business owner should spend their time, is trying to prevent those jobs from going off the deep end before it happens.
Exactly. And if it does happen, okay, then at least learning from the process. So that's kind of an after the job thing that you can do. So I'm just kind of searching any other things that you can think of that while the job is underway that you want to keep track of. What about equipment cost and some of those types of things? Getting the right amount for burdened labor included in your cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, that's those are all things that hopefully going into the job you put some buffer on those equipment costs. If you own the equipment, you got to remember there could be maintenance, there could be unforeseen repairs that might have to happen. Just thinking about delays due to weather, all of that stuff should be accounted for in the job. Our approach on the time tracking, so when you have employees, what we actually show you in the budget, your employees, you're going to set their fully burdened labor rate. So that's not just what you're paying them, but that's kind of the full burden. And so when they clock in, they log hours to specific tasks within the job, you can see that full amount, not just what is going to go out through payroll. It's the total cost to you for that. And so I think that it is very important that you are keeping track of all that as you go, because if you don't, again, you could wake up at the end of this job and then realize that you just blew through your budget, and now you're eating out of your own pocket. So obviously, I think it's very important that all of these aspects get kind of managed throughout the job, and don't just wait on the bookkeeper at the very end to tell you how you performed. As a project manager, as a business owner, like, you need to have a system in place to keep track of that as you go.
And tell me a little bit about your opinion of the back office. How important is it to have somebody that's on top of things in, I don't love the term back office, but in the office, the person that's handling incoming bills, and so on, and matching things up and getting them into the right job.
Yeah, 100%. So like to give you a story, I mean, when I took over this company, we had about $800,000 in AR, which is just crazy, right? So, again, our project manager said, hey, we're ready to invoice the customer, and so they asked the accounts receivable lady to create that invoice, to send it off. So she did that, but then she assumed that the field people or the project manager is going to follow up with the customer. She didn't realize that they had no idea when it wasn't getting paid. She wasn't following up. Well, the project manager just assumed that the accounting person was following up. And so like there was this disconnect, right? Like, and you don't want to have your entire fields team and all your project managers. You don't need a million cooks in your QuickBooks kitchen. You want to have that controlled, by one or a few, select people who that's what they are good at. That's their skill set. But like there has to be that connection so that everybody is kept on the same page about where you're at, whether it's with getting your receivables paid or having your project managers approving the bills and confirming that, yes, this work was completed satisfactory and we are ready. We are approving the payment of this bill. And then knowing once that's been paid as well, having those connections. And that's where JobTread, being able to have that integration with your QuickBooks, it helps kind of connect everybody, but it keeps everyone in their appropriate lanes and focused on doing their jobs and not trying to cross over to the other person.
Yeah, good book to read there, of course, is the Michael Gerber series about everybody needing to know exactly what their job in the company is, and so you don't duplicate effort, but you also nothing falls through the cracks.
Absolutely.
So let's just talk about, once you get a good job costing system in place, what are some of the longer term benefits? I'm going to jump in here with one, and that is if you can see what different types of work are creating better and lesser profits for you, it can help you decide half a dozen things. One of the things is, where do we want to take the company? I mean, do we want to maybe we're making a 30% profit margin on one thing and a 20% profit margin on another. Gosh, if we shift everything over to our 30% profit margin work, maybe that's a specialty area and we can continue to earn at least that, plus maybe charge more because we're specializing. So that can have a really big impact on where the entire company is going when you can see what different kinds of jobs, what's happening.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's, I see a lot of people who they want to try to, take on all sorts of different type of work. And the reality is that you can't be great at everything. And it is important that you really figure out what are your strengths, where are the core areas and the core services and solutions that you want to deliver as a business. What is the most profitable types of jobs and even types of customers? Not all customers are going to be the same and are going to work well. And so by really understanding where you're making money, where you're losing money, that's going to help you to further refine what types of jobs and what types of services do you want to provide, and also how do you want to target your marketing efforts. I mean, again, if you figure out that you're great at concrete but you're terrible at fencing, well, then focus on concrete. Go drive all of your resources from your marketing, from your advertising perspective. Try to go win more of those jobs. Go talk to those customers and get them to give you video testimonials and be references, and just keep building on that momentum of what's working, and don't keep doing the things that aren't working. That you got to really make sure that as a business owner, you're keeping the team focused on your most profitable revenue generators and profit centers. And so I think on the same token, understanding which of your subs and which of your suppliers, where are you getting the best pricing for your materials, and who is performing for you. If you see and you go look at the last 10 jobs and you find that every time you had this one particular sub on it, you had to send someone back out or send them back out to fix their work, well, again, you got to start looking at those things and tracking them and understanding that you got to know when and who are your best performers. And at times you might have to quit using certain guys, Or it could be the same thing if it's an employee and they're costing you more money, and some other guy is doing a better job and gets it done right the first time. Then you either need to say, hey, I got to go train that underperformer, or at some point then you might have to replace him. But I think job costing is going to uncover so much of this insight, and there's so many ways that like you got to take the time to do it and to analyze your data. And what we did at the construction company I ran is, we basically every single month we would have a full-blown meeting with the project manager about every single one of their jobs that were completed. I think you could do this, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. It depends on how long your jobs are. It depends probably also on how tenured that employee is. Maybe earlier on when they're first starting, you want to meet more frequently, but at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that you're taking the time to review that performance and then kind of seeing what other benefits, what other insights you can gain as a whole, looking for trends and trying to spot areas where you're losing money, you're not performing, whatever it may be. It's so important that you take the time to stop and analyze your data.
That debriefing process, and all of us have a tendency, well, I shouldn't say all of us, but in many cases, the next job is facing us. It's kind of, oh, got to go do this, got to get going on that, time pressures. And so that can pull people away from that debriefing. But you know what? That debriefing time, you're still close to it. And if you don't stop at that point, then our memories fade. But stopping at that point is when you're closest to what actually really happened and what needs to change. And then pulling those things through to your own procedures. Say, okay, what did go wrong? Did we have the wrong estimate? Do we need to provide feedback to our estimator? Was it unrealistic? Okay, some of the numbers we had. And, hash your way through those things when you're still close to it. So changing procedures. And I love the part about now you've got some objective information to work with when you're evaluating employees, not just, oh, how did they do on the last job? Okay. When it's time to actually sit down and do evaluations and make compensation decisions and so on. So those are some things that you can get out of that kind of a debrief, a look back. And as we mentioned earlier, you're getting your own database in place. So I think we've covered a lot of the things that we intended to talk about. And I want to be sure to give you a little bit of time here. Let me move forward through our slides. And so we talked about our accurate costs, getting us to better estimating, and fair and profitable pricing. So nobody is trying to do your customer a disservice and just way overcharge them, but fair to me means that you get to make a profit too, right? That's because you're not going to stay in business if you're not making a decent enough profit. Somebody put in Mark put in the questions pane. He said, I can go broke staying at home. So that was pretty cute. So, and then of course, knowing your winners and losers. So that's going to help you back over, as Eric said, on the marketing side and in filtering those leads. So that can make a huge difference just right out of the gate. I mean, you can stop losing money before you even start. And unfortunately, a lot of people lose money before they even start a job. So getting that in place is great. So during it, you've got your feedback loop with your project managers and your team members and your estimators, tracking those change orders. One of the first meetings I ever went into a board meeting for a local home builders association, and one of the board members took me aside and he says, I need to talk to you, because he said, we just wrapped up a job and we went to collect on our change orders at the end, and they wouldn't pay. I lost $30,000 on change orders that the customer went, nope, well, we didn't approve those. So, and so those billable costs, you don't want to miss out on those things that should be getting billed. And that can, again, come right out of your pocket, as Eric mentioned. And then afterwards, you can improve your processes, and you can find out where maybe some of your profit leaks are occurring, where are materials disappearing. I mean, that sounds like something that should be really evident, but not if you're not looking at your estimate versus actual reports. And you can maximize your business mix. So Q&A right now. I want to look and see what other folks have put in, and we are going to be talking, there's a question or two out here about JobTread itself. Okay, Edward said this is a great webinar. Eric knows what he's talking about. He's from Vancouver, British Columbia. Okay, and then let's see. I think the other questions are JobTread. So let's just get into JobTread. I'm going to ask you a few questions first, and we'll kind of jump through this. And would you want to give us a quick tour of your website and introduce your team? I'll tell you what, can we wait for that towards the end? I'll go through these other ones. Okay, what kinds of clients do you work with?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a pretty good mix. Really, JobTread was designed to work for any construction jobs-based business. So if you're running jobs, whether you're having to custom bid those jobs or you've got kind of a turnkey template of that you work from every time, and we've got home builders on here, remodelers, deck builders, pool builders, several individual trades, electricians, plumbers, just general contractors. I mean, really any construction business is able to benefit from JobTread. And again, we've set up the tool where you can build out your budget, you can send out your proposals, collect those e-signatures, manage all the selections, allowances, change orders. Then you can do all the job costing from the purchase orders. In addition to the other project management aspects of scheduling, collecting daily logs, having one place to upload your files, photos, everything is all in one place. So if you're in the construction business, it's likely a good fit for you.
Okay, so that really kind of leads into this next question about how are you different? There are some other, okay, so we work primarily, well, 100% at this point in QuickBooks Desktop because it can do almost everything that people need for job costing other than the very cool things that can be done in the field, okay? And many of the things that you're already talking about, we can get it all recorded after the fact inside QuickBooks. But there are several other plugins that are available out there, and I say plugins to QuickBooks, that provide some of those extra services. So tell us how you're different from some of those other add-in types of packages that are out there.
Sure. I mean, I would say first and foremost, again, we're leveraging modern technology. So our application is going to be extremely fast. It's easier to use, easier to learn. We're extremely affordable. Our biggest competitors, Buildertrend, CoConstruct. I mean, it's $1,000 a month. Our base price starts at $199 plus $20 per user. All the features, everything's included. The integrations are all included. So I do very often hear that our QuickBooks online and QuickBooks Desktop integrations are a lot more feature based. They're again, we're just leveraging modern technology and have a much newer technology stack. A lot of the older software out there, they may have built their integrations several years ago, and so QuickBooks has changed a lot of their integration points over the years. And so again, we're just able to leverage the most modern, up-to-date resources to create these connections. And I think the other thing, just beyond even the software, is it's the team that we've built. It's our approach to collaborating with our customers. We have a very strong foundation built out, but we also have a feature request board, and we have ways that our customers can submit their ideas and can collaborate with us to make sure that we're building out the best possible product for the market. We've all been in construction. Like nearly my entire team has spent time in construction, and we very much understand and continue to build this from a contractor's perspective, leveraging our experience, but bringing in our customers to be involved as well. Like we just had a huge our inaugural user conference in January where we invited our customers in from all over the country. We had over 200 clients came and did a 3-day event with us where it was just a bunch of kind of ed sessions, trainings, collaborations. Got all of our team involved and just kind of got to spend the time working with our customers to continue improving this. And so I very often hear the JobTread customer success team is extremely responsive. Our Facebook group is very, very active, and I think those are the things and really our approach to building this, working with our customers is probably some of the most noted differences.
That's fabulous that you're open to hearing what people, the kind of feedback that you're getting from people and that you're responding to it. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
And lots of times programs are just so embedded in their older systems that they can't make the changes, even if they wanted to. So if they wanted to is one thing, and if they can is something different. So what kinds of programs? So let's say I was interested in getting started with JobTread. What kind of programs do you have available?
I mean, it's basically it's an online software as a service. So you basically you just sign up for JobTread and you get full access to the entire suite. We do provide a dedicated customer success manager for every single customer. But on our help desk, which is fully integrated and built into the application, we have training programs in there. You can go to, it's usually 2 to 3 live trainings every single day that you can attend. You have all those recordings as well. Specific feature recordings and videos are in there. There's a whole getting started program that walks you through all the implementation and setup. So everything is included with your JobTread subscription. At the end of the day, we want to make sure, and we're going to devote our time and our energy to helping you learn the program and to getting it set up so that you're successful and you're able to benefit and grow your business by using it.
Okay, well, that sounds like a pretty nice onboarding program from what I can hear. And how long, when people start with JobTread, how long do they typically continue to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I've had, since we started selling this back in 2021, we've got several customers that have been with us for several years now, and it's pretty exciting to watch and to hear their success stories. There's a whole page on our website dedicated to the references and testimonials and all the success that we've seen happen. But it's something that, again, once you lay that foundation, once you have that system in place, it's about focusing on continuing to grow and to scale the business. A lot of times, business owners are also the ones kind of out on the tools and trying to wear both hats. But once you can get a system in place and you can set up your catalog and really, create these templates and these best practices and processes, then you're able to start, replacing yourself, and you can hire salespeople, you can hire project managers, you can hire your bookkeepers. You can't do everything, and you can't also be out there doing every single job, and so you do need to be able to take it up a level.
Looks like, from what I can see, Eric is offline. So I do have, while we're waiting for him to get back in, he might have gotten, I saw his screen froze up a little earlier, and I continued to hear him. And so I expect to see him back in here momentarily. And I'll just kind of read off these questions and see if I can answer any of them. So I'm seeing the first tech question is, I use spreadsheets to break down individual operations. These are all time-based. The total time is transferred to another spreadsheet that allows me to put in the average labor rate for that crew, the labor burden, the overhead percentage, and then the margin markup. The effort on all operations is a time effort. The dollars are applied later. Is there a way to create the catalog using time-based entries? Now, I'm going to answer part of that, Mark. And just, Eric, I'm going to also make you an organizer so you can see the questions. And welcome back, by the way. And while we were waiting for you, I just kind of read through the one question. So first of all, I'm going to tell you about a product that we have that's called the Employee Cost and Pricing Analyzer, which is a very extensive Excel-based spreadsheet, but it does all of that, all those calculations for you in one place, in an integrated place, and then you can turn around and in QuickBooks Desktop, at least, you can have QuickBooks Desktop assign that burden out to jobs based on percentages, based on each individual employee. So that's one piece I think that could go more quickly for you, and you'll get links to that when we're done. But on the JobTread side, Eric, you said that you use those burden costs once you get them and get them inside JobTread to help give people that interim, before the payroll runs, that interim information. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, so when you set up your basically your fully burdened rate for the time tracking. I mean, that's because we want to show the total cost for those hours and for those employees while they're working on the job. And when we push the hours into your QuickBooks, that's where the rates, their hourly rate or their daily rate, that's going to be used and picked up through the payroll, but in order to get the fully, burdened rate in JobTread, that's where you're putting that kind of that fully burdened rate on there, and that shows you within the budget exactly where you're at.
Okay, so I'm going to back up here. A couple things from Mark, so we'll just kind of go through there on the change orders. He said sometimes the client doesn't even know there's almost a complete redesign, like adding 4 floors like we had in our picture there. And then he says, is it possible with the JobTread time tracking for employees to clock into something like 7 deep trench, which is part of a specific job, and then have that map to a service, I think probably service item. Let me try to widen that out a little bit.
Yep, that's exactly how, when they clock in, they're selecting the specific line item that they're working towards, and all of that information pushes over to QuickBooks.
Yeah, and a service item in QuickBooks after I got it widened out here. Okay, good. Yeah, we love service items in QuickBooks Desktop. Okay. And then let's see, can choosing a catalog item during the estimating process auto trigger another catalog item? Not sure what catalog items are, but maybe that's a JobTread thing. For example, excavate dirt with compact loader per cubic yard, trigger another item, mobilize compact loader trailer.
Yep. So in JobTread, you have your catalog, and your catalog can have cost items, and then it can have like cost groups or full kind of templates, budget templates, if you will. And so what you would do is you would essentially have created a cost group, which is going to have all of those line items that are going to be related to the excavation. And so that's where, our approach again is it's better to include line items that even if you need to remove them from a job, you can do that. It's better to include them and then have to remove them than to potentially forget to add them to a job, because that could have then come out of your pocket if you end up needing to pay for something that you didn't include on a fixed price contract.
Okay. From Julie, she asks, are you looking at connecting to Clear Estimates?
We're familiar with Clear Estimates. I know we've had several people who have switched over from them. You are able to export your entire Clear Estimate catalog. What we've seen, if I remember correctly, it's something like 15,000 line items are in there. It can be a lot of data. So really our approach is kind of, get the things that are most relevant to you that you're using the majority of the time, and that's what you would want to import into your JobTread catalog. A lot of times we've seen though, when people are trying to use, the Clear Estimates, RS Means is another one, where essentially they're calculating or they're telling you what the cost is for that thing. You really got to take that with a grain of salt, because what they're doing is they've got essentially one location where they've queued in as here's the cost, and then they use a cost of living adjustment factor to basically increase or decrease that based on whatever city you're living in relative to where their base set of cost is. And so the thing that I've heard is that those things they can be wildly inaccurate at times, and so you really need to know your own numbers, know your own cost based on what subs you're hiring or what suppliers you're purchasing from. That's where I think really leveraging your actuals is gonna more often than not be your most accurate cost, or sending out bid requests to collect those real-time pricing updates, just versus trying to use some national average.
Okay, great. So this is QuickBooks job costing question. I guess this is geared towards me. I can clock into an internal job, my own business, and choose a service item called content development. The item has an expense account associated with it. Why doesn't it show up in the chart of accounts as part of the expenses? So time is not money, okay? And he says, or if it does, when? It's a pain to expense reports and then separate items to find out what the total cost would be for an individual expense. So I may or may not be answering this in total for you, Mark, and I'd be happy to have a quick online discussion about it. But putting time in QuickBooks doesn't create a cost. You have to, if you want cost to show up anywhere in either the chart of accounts or in your item-based reports, it needs to come in via a check, a bill, or a credit card. It's pretty much, you could also put it on a journal entry, but that's not the best way to do things. So one of those three QuickBooks transactions is what is going to be what creates cost in QuickBooks. If employees put their time in and you convert that time into payroll, then of course it's going to show up in both accounts and in items. So I hope I answered that, but if not, send me an email and we can set 10, 15 minutes to chat about this and help you out. I think I've picked up most of the questions. If I haven't, go ahead and add them in and we'll make sure it gets answered after the fact.
I saw one from Emma. Do trade partners count as users
yes.
for the JobTread pricing? The answer is no. We only charge for your internal users, which is like your employees, people who are creating customers or leads or creating jobs, sending out proposals, managing your work orders, documents, things like that. Those are your internal users. All of your subs, suppliers, customers, those are external users. Those are free and unlimited.
Great, thank you. I did miss that one. I had my eye on it, but then skipped past it. Okay, I got all excited about the QuickBooks desktop question there. Okay, so hey, I talked to Eric before our presentation today, and I said, can you come up with anything special for the people who have signed up for this webinar and want to work through JobTread? And he was kind enough to say, okay, if you will let us know, either through using this link that we're going to send out the slide deck to you guys tomorrow, and there'll be clickable links in here, or you tell them when you go out and sign up for a demo or whatever that you sat in on this presentation with Eric and Diane, that you'll get a 50% discount on your first month. So mention us and talk about this particular webinar and you will get a very nice discount. So that's a pretty good gift. Okay, and then we're going to just spend, in all great TV shows, there's an ad of some sort. So I'm just going to spend a moment and talk about what we do here at buildyournumbers.com. Our most popular product is our online job cost training for QuickBooks Desktop. And we do have pre-built construction template for QuickBooks. So for those of you who are in desktop or want to be in desktop, or you have a messy file in desktop that just isn't set up the right way, we have a pre-built template. You can find out what your employees really cost using our employee cost and pricing analyzer. It's in Excel. You don't have to learn a new software. And you can pull those numbers over into QuickBooks. Accurate reports every month. We've developed through many years of working with clients a set of month-end closing procedures so that when you do look at your reports out of QuickBooks, you'll know that they're accurate, assuming that your bookkeeper follows those procedures. And if you need to be changing your QuickBooks from one year to another or one type of QuickBooks desktop to another, we're going to help you find the right fit. Okay, we don't want to oversell you or undersell you. We want to get you the right software that's going to meet your particular needs. And lots more than that. So for questions or conversation, contact us. We are very accessible. Eric, this has been great having you here today, and I think we could maybe give people anything else that you want to, any final thoughts, one big thought for people to walk away with.
I'd say, it looks like we're kind of short on time here. Didn't get to show a demo of anything, but if you just go to our website, jobtread.com, you can hit the schedule a demo button at the top, and that'll essentially let you pick a day and time that works for you. And someone on our team will be able to give you a one-on-one walkthrough, kind of show you all of the feature in the platform, and further kind of answer any questions about how the integrations work, things like that. But we'd love to show you more about JobTread and help you evaluate it to see if it'd be a good fit for your business. And lastly, I'll say there's also There's a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you get in there and you decide it's not going to be a good fit for whatever reason, where you can cancel at any time. It's it's a month-to-month subscription. If it's in the first 30 days, you can request that that refund there. If again, for whatever reason, no questions asked. But hopefully you find it really valuable. We also have an annual option where you can upgrade to prepay for the year, and we'll give you an additional 20% discount on your subscription. So it's a pretty good deal. You can also see here we've got with the Evo payments, if you collect your credit card and ACH payments directly through our application through Evo, they're actually giving a $100 credit every month for the first 12 months against your JobTread subscription. So it's a way to save another $100 per month for that first year. So pretty neat promotion that they're running as well.
Okay, well, sorry I didn't give you a chance to do a much of a demo here, but I think if people sign up, they would get, for the demo, they're going to get something that is even more applicable to their particular circumstance. Yep. And yes, this is Eric's, if you go out here, I didn't put Eric's personal email in here. I would imagine he's a little protective of that. So, but at any rate, yeah, get in touch with the folks at JobTread, and I'm sure you're going to find somebody that's going to help you out. Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, this is, and my questions keep popping into different places here. So Mark said he set up the JobTread demo yesterday, his appointment yesterday. So he's excited to poke around. So yeah, tell him that you watched the webinar today and that you were a very active participant too. So thanks, Mark.
And you can, my contact info is just Eric, ERIC, @jobtread.com if you wanted to email me directly. But definitely a good way to kind of see the schedule and the availability and to book a time is gonna be to go through the website. It's got fully integrated with our calendar.
Okay, great. Yes, and it's a very extensive website, and they have all sorts of great other information out there too. So I can fully endorse going out there and picking up some really good insights. Okay, so Eric, thank you so much. I think we have 30 seconds before the top of the hour. So I think we made it, and we'll respect everybody's time. I just want to say thanks so much for being here with us today. And we really appreciate the opportunity. As I said, you're a pretty popular guy, so it took us a little while to get you into our queue here, but so glad that you could join us today.
Appreciate you having me, Diane. Thank you.
Okay, and everybody, you will get a link tomorrow to the recording and to the slides with the clickable links. So we'll see you again soon in another one of our build, see if I can even say this, Better Numbers, Better Business series. So take care. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.